Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Today we are going to be talking about 3 coins that I'm actively buying inside of this dip. I firmly believe that this is one of the very last good buying opportunities that we're going to have to accumulate many of our long-term positions that have been outperforming the rest of the market, and the investments that we believe the most in going into 2025. Today I'm going to be breaking down my top 3 picks for what I'm actively buying in this dip so that you guys know exactly how to be positioned and prepared for everything that's coming in 2025 around my favorite positions. If you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And without further ado, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty everybody, here we are jumping into today's video. The first one on today's list is going to be Metis or Metis DAO. This is my favorite layer 2 going into this next bull run because I got a lot of confidence that this one could see a lot of price appreciation going into this next year. Now, I love it for a couple of different reasons. The chart I think looks really phenomenal, but then on top of all of that, you have the backing of Ethereum and the foundation, having received $100 million worth of funding from them. On top of that, Vitalik Buterin and his mother is actually kind of one of the lead people inside of the team of this project, and so she's kind of spearheading a lot of the growth and development that takes place towards blockchain relations, reaching out partners, all of those things. Obviously, she's Vitalik Buterin's mom, so I'm sure she orchestrated getting the $100 million worth of funding in the grant, and I'm sure that Ethereum in and of itself will give the nod to Metis when the time comes and we're starting to see this thing run. So for those reasons, I'm really confident in Metis DAO. On top of that, we can also look a little bit further into the tokenomics of this project, and we can see that it only has a circulating supply of 6.1 million, and there's a total supply of 10 million tokens. So for me, I think that these are going to have a really big opportunity of running in a really big way because of the fact what we notice happens with all of these different cryptos. Whenever there's a lot of buy support at a given moment, we can see that a lot of the tokens are really just pulled from the liquidity pools, and there becomes a large scarcity with the token supplies themselves. And so there's a supply shock. Nobody can buy enough of the tokens. They don't exist in the liquidity pools. The exchanges are having to go out and actively accumulate more themselves just to be able to fill their own, reserves on the exchange. And what we see is the prices of these things explode to really crazy valuations. And so the lower that the supply is, the more of that supply that's locked up running nodes, which is something that is a key factor inside of Metis and the Andromeda network. I got a lot of confidence that this one could see one of the bigger supply shocks when we're talking about new all-time highs in 2025. So I think I've covered enough reasons as to why I'm bullish on Metis DAO itself. Let's get into the chart and let's identify what is taking place. Now we're seeing this big pullback. I ended up accumulating a little bit of Metis right at the very top before this pullback took place. I accumulated a little bit more yesterday at about this price, around $55, $54. And now it's even a little bit lower, and I'm going to be looking to buy more as well. Now, the thing about Metis DAO that I'm watching for is the fact that it has a cycle from the last bull market. So I always love to be able to look at what the prior cycle did and give me a little bit of an idea for price appreciation and targets that we can expect moving forward. Now, the very first cycle for Metis, we saw this 5-wave rise, a big extended blow off top into wave 5, and we finished out this big ABC correction in our bear market. Now, this entire move all the way down in here is a Wyckoff. We saw many different markets create these Wyckoff accumulations with this third final lower low, creating that spring-loaded bounce where we saw many of the markets start to break back up. So over the last, few months, really over the last year at this point, we've seen Metis make its first true higher high. We had a lot of new volume that came in here on that move. And then on top of that, we finished out that correction, pretty much retested the prior range as new support. And what we were seeing up to that point was really just us kind of accumulating, building that parabolic trend. And even if we come back down here just a little bit lower, maybe we hit $40, I think that would be a blessing. I would love to be able to accumulate a $40 Metis again. For me, the thing I'm looking at is mainly the market cap. Sitting at about 200, really just sub 300 million, almost 300 million exactly. I think that this thing genuinely could do 100x from here. So if you're talking 100x, that would be $30 billion in market cap. I think that this is the cycle with the institutions, with all of the retail, with all of the speculative money that exists. If we're going to see legit projects take off, which I do believe they're going to have their spotlight very soon, I think that Metis cements itself having the narrative of Vitalik's mom being one of the big leaders in this project, getting partnerships and things like that, getting the $100 million worth of funding. There's really great volume, good liquidity. The chart is obviously bullish with this first little breakout because what we saw here was our first impulse wave to start the new cycle, right? Because this was our prior cycle, and out of the very bottom of this Wyckoff, we saw our first little subwave increase. Now, we've already finished the 5-wave rise, we finished the ABC correction back down. If we go to a log scale, we've already broken from all downtrending resistance right here. So to me, this sell-off is really just a blessing to be able to buy Metis at a cheaper price before we inevitably end up breaking out and going into a new all-time high, which if we're looking at this thing on a long-term basis, you know, if we were to go into an all-time high, the thing I'm watching for is whenever Metis can officially break out of log downtrending resistance, but I think that that comes on the next move. You know, I don't know exactly how this is going to bottom, whether it'll be kind of a quick reversal back up like this, or maybe we take a little bit of time going sideways before that move takes place. I don't think it really matters, but what I wouldn't be surprised is to see this kind of end up like some sort of V bottom before it retests this, breaks out, and then once we officially break out and get that confirmed flip of downtrending log resistance as new support, that to me is where Metis is going to absolutely send it into a very parabolic impulse. You know, if we just go to the prior all-time highs of where we're at right now, you know, you're looking at basically almost a 700% move. So if we're talking about this much money coming into the market, I do think that Metis is one of the most overlooked projects right now. We have so much money speculating inside of the meme coins, and don't get me wrong, I've made a ton of money off meme coins that I've taken it and rotated it right back into my long-term Metis positions. I think that that's the only way that you should really be playing the meme coins, is always taking the profit, being quick to take your profit. You know, if something runs a 20x or something, take your damn profit. Even if you see it go up another 10x from there and you feel like you missed out, you always keep a little bit of a moon bag that you can just sit it and forget it in case it does take off, but you want to be locking up the majority of your profits. You know, if you're sitting at $5,000-$10,000 profit off of a pretty small initial investment of a few $100, you know, that's a lot of money that you can take and throw right back into your long-term positions. And when these things really start to run, when everybody stops speculating on meme coins so much, that's really where you can make a lot of long-term profit, make a lot of compounding gains on your long-term bags. And it's really easy with these meme coins to do that. But when we're looking at a 6x to the prior all-time highs, or a 7x, whatever it was, you know, to me, this is one of the more obvious plays in the market. You know, if we're going to be seeing what this thing could go into a brand new all-time high after it kind of surpasses this move, I do believe that we'd be looking at this thing probably going to about that $500 or $600 threshold. And before we really saw any sort of major pullback, right? You know, we could see little pullbacks along the way, but I wouldn't be surprised if this thing did something like that, leading into a much bigger move like this. You know, we should expect to see these type of breakouts as we're starting this next cycle, and this thing could even go higher than that. You know, 100x from today would basically be $4,700 per token, and when I zoom out and look at this, I don't think that it's that crazy. You know, it looks a little bit more crazy on a linear scale. If we come to a log scale, 4,700 to 5K is up here. To me, that is a very realistic target, and I think that Metis can definitely 100x from these price points. And if Metis is doing that, you got a lot of confidence that if you're investing into anything in the Metis economy, the ecosystem that's there, you can make even more money, considering a lot of those being liquidity bonded to Metis token are just going to see the same upside, but then even bigger because they're starting at much lower valuations. So that's Metis DAO. Next up is going to be C Network. C is one of my favorite layer ones going into this cycle. I've always talked a lot about layer ones. Why I'm so bullish on them is because layer ones are their entire own ecosystem, and all of them are going to be ultimately utilizing C token, you know, for liquidity, for all of these different things. It's also the gas token in that economy. So when we're talking about use case, you have a lot of use case if anybody ends up bridging over, building projects over on the C network and doing anything over there. It's just going to ultimately increase the native token itself. So that's why I've always been a big believer. Some of my biggest gains of the last cycle, talking about Solana, Phantom, Terra Luna, all of those came from just me speculating on what was going to be the next big layer one to blow up. Happened to be lucky and buy all of those and they blew up. You know, sold a lot of them too early, as many do, but regardless, this is kind of the same things that I'm looking at into this next cycle. Looking at C Network today, to me, this looks exactly like Solana's first cycle. Now, if we pull up the Solana chart, what you guys are going to notice here is that we saw this exact same sort of liquidation event that took place right when it very first broke up and started to retest some of these prior highs of its first little run up. Now, if you guys notice, look how quick that weekly, well, this is a 2-day time frame, look how quickly that got bought up and how much it ended up running into a new all-time high once it was finished with that correction. To me, you know, we've been looking and comparing the Solana chart, knowing that all of this looks relatively the exact same. Both of these higher highs are pretty much the same. The listings on exchanges, you know, even this little breakout that we saw right over in here is relatively the same. All of it's pretty much been exactly the same. And I'd look at this current little liquidation event as being, you know, arguably the same thing once more. It could go a little lower, but to me, it's sitting right on support. You know, we don't want to fade these opportunities at buying, you know, a support and resistance flip, because we just shook out, you know, 10, 20, 30%, depending on where you bought in here. So the fact that you can get a 30% discount on a token that's about to do something like this, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer why we would accumulate, at least buy a little bit more in that process. It's right back down to, you know, areas that I accumulated more. I compounded a lot of profit back into C Network when I was making profit inside of my meme coin trades. And so now that it's retesting the support, it's another great opportunity to buy more. I'm going to be buying more, and I'm really confident that this one's going to really perform well throughout 2025. Now, last up on today's video is going to be Injective Protocol. Injective Protocol is one that I've already made a decent amount off of this initial run, but I have a lot of confidence that these are going to be providing some of the better tokenomics when we're talking about upside potential. Now, it is over $2 billion in market cap, so if you were following my videos when I was covering it all the way back down in here at the lows, you know, you should have been up, you know, more significantly around like $1 billion, $1.5 billion in market cap, depending on where you actually saw that video and where you bought. But looking at it today, you know, this thing made one of the bigger rises on this initial breakout, and it's also creating one of the bigger sell-offs, and to me, it's an early sign as far as what it's going to be doing on the next run. Let's see the exact price. It was about 30% that this thing dropped. To me, that's a huge opportunity considering it's probably just going to engulf this entire dip, and that would be a 36% gain if we go back up to the highs. If we go to the prior all-time high, you're talking about a 2x gain. You know, so that's going to be a really big run that this thing's about to experience. But here's the thing, guys. For me, when I'm looking at Injective Protocol in the long term, I love this setup because it reminds me of Chainlink in the last cycle. Chainlink was one of the first to really start running, and Injective was one of the first ones to run this cycle. I always like finding that first mover because oftentimes it's an indication as far as where smart money is positioning themselves. If they create one of the bigger cycles to start at the beginning of the bull run where there's not that much speculation going around, generally it's not based on much speculation, it's based on tangibilities. So when we're looking at Injective Protocol, you know, this thing had a really nice run to start. We saw wave 1, wave 3, wave 4, and then we saw this big extended wave 5. And really, this thing was more of an expanded flat ABC correction. But realistically, once we came back down and retested this prior cycle as new support, to me, that was an obvious buy, and that's why I was accumulating all of my long-term Injective positions right down here at these lows. I didn't care if it went a little bit lower. You know, you have these short-term exhaustion points where everybody's capitulating, but for the most part, it pretty much held this support perfectly, and now for the first time, we've actually broken back and flipped this prior resistance as new support, and you have an opportunity at buying right on that support level. These are really obvious buy opportunities in the market, and when I'm looking at Injective, this entire last move was just a wave 1 impulse. This one had such a massive run to start this cycle, and all of this is only going to put us at a wave 1 heading into a wave 3. But here's the thing, guys, wave 3 impulses are oftentimes going to be the biggest, the most impulsive, the most volume comes into these ones, and the biggest ROIs are made inside of that move. So when I pull up the Fibonacci, it gives us a minimum target of $97. It gives us a target of the 2618 at 150. I think that it's going to absolutely blow past every single fib target, and there's literally no point in even looking at them. And I just wasted your time comparing them. But that's the thing. The point is, I think that this thing's going to go up so much that there's no point in drawing these lines in the sand, expecting that it's going to end up just topping and just, you know, having this big bear market, because throughout 2025, we're set to be very bullish. Bitcoin's at new all-time highs. Bitcoin dominance is topping. Altcoins are finally starting to break out. You know, meme coins are really starting to break out like Pepe and Dogecoin. These are all indications that retail money is here, and I think that these type of altcoins that have already outperformed to start the cycle are going to see some of the bigger price appreciation when we start to break out. Looking at this thing on the long term, this is really just that final retest of prior all-time highs as new support before we get this massive parabolic move. And if I had to guess where Injective could be, you know, I think that this thing could vary, for sure is going to hit hundreds of dollars, but I think at a high end, it could hit $1,000 per coin. you know, that would put us from where we're at right now being basically 40x. And it could even go up higher than that. You know, it could be multi-thousands. 100x from here is going to be putting us at $2,600 per token. I think it's possible. This cycle of all is going to have more money flowing around it than ever before. I'm not going to say 100% that it's going to 100x because it's already got kind of a higher market cap, but don't underestimate the Injective protocol. The tokenomics of this are highly deflationary, which ultimately points that, you know, the supply shock that I talked about with Metis is going to happen to Injective, and it could even happen in a much bigger and more impactful way, where the token of this thing actually flies to crazy valuations many didn't think possible. I think that that's going to happen across the board on a lot of tokens. These are the three that I'm actively buying in this dip. I think that they're all going to bounce. I think that we've got a rare opportunity to accumulate a massive discount, so I'm jumping in. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning into this video. If you did find value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. If you want to see anything I'm investing in, currently running a 25% discount throughout all of December. If you guys want to be able to get access to my group at a discount of 25%, links are in the description to go ahead and check that out. With that being said, I love you guys, I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to catching you guys in the next one as well. As always, peace out.